Hey y'all, Loud Little Ducky here. We are going to be doing a Sandra Birchmore update. There are a couple of articles that I want to go over that give us some insight just to kind of where we stand right now. And we are still seeking justice for Sandra Birchmore and her baby. Officer tied to Sandra Birchmore case decertified by post commission. Good. That's the least that could happen to him. Losing his job and losing his certification so that he can never be a police officer again anywhere and never hurt anybody while using the badge. It is not enough, though. He should be in jail. He should be registered as a sex offender. Plain and simple. But oh, he was a brother in blue. And if you're a brother in blue up in Norfolk County, nothing will happen to you. This was updated and published in September of 2024. So it's got a nice picture of Sandra Birchmore from her Facebook. You can see she's just so young and youthful. She had a whole life ahead of her, a baby on the way, in her mind, from a man she loved who could give no shits about her. He doesn't care because he's got another baby on the way with his wife. And he just took it from her. And the innocent baby never got to be. Because he is selfish and a disgusting pig. Matthew Farwell is the one who did that. But this article is going to be focused on his twin brother, William Farwell. But the caption says, Sandra Birchmore of Canton died in 2021 and Massachusetts official ruled her death as an unaliving by her own hands, is what Massachusetts officials say. On Wednesday, August 28th, 2024, federal authorities charged the former Stoughton police officer, Matthew Farwell, with killing Birchmore. Birchmore is pictured here in a photograph from her Facebook. So where Massachusetts says unaliving, the feds say, I don't think so, you dumbasses. Former Stoughton police officer William Farwell, whose brother Matthew Farwell is charged with killing Sandra Birchmore in 2021, entered into a voluntary agreement to permanently revoke his certification to work as a police officer in Massachusetts. And I don't think he'll be able to get certified in another state either. I mean, he could try. I mean, some departments do allow dirty cops. But if you find out that you have a decertified cop from another state that was decertified, you should have a bunch of questions for your police department if your police department hires that type of person. William Farwell resigned as a Stoughton police officer on August 1st, 2022, amid an internal affairs investigation. Looking real guilty, sir. He met Birchmore through Stoughton Police Department's Explorers program, where he worked as an instructor. And Birchmore was a minor. In the voluntary decertification agreement between William Farwell and the Peace Officer Standards and Training, also known as POST, Commission, the watchdog agency listed several factual allegations that William Farwell waived his rights to contest. So he is signing this and he's saying, he's not necessarily admitting these things, but he's saying that I could see where you get come to these conclusions. He knows whether they're true or not. Will he ever admit to them? Probably not. The agreement referenced the internal investigation. I don't know why it's an internal report completed on August 29, 2022, where the following allegations were made. Let's see what those were. William Farwell misled state police investigators about the extent of his relationship with Birchmore. Yeah, because I'm sure he wasn't like real forthcoming with, yeah, I slept with a minor. Yeah, a whole bunch of us took advantage of a little girl while we were all grown men. He exchanged sexually explicit text messages with Birchmore while on duty on several occasions when she was an adult. So here they just talk about that she was an adult on several of those occasions. Let's not put in here that it was while she was underage and a child who you are supposed to be protecting, who when these parents put their kids in these Police Explorer programs because one, it's just something for them to do. And maybe some of them are real interested in becoming police officers like Birchmore. And you want them to look up to these police officers, and these parents and guardians trust you with their kids because you're sworn to protect. And you're not protecting these kids. You're doing vile things to them. Also, he conducted several unauthorized searches of both himself and Birchmore in criminal justice information databases. Yeah, it's hard to deny that. And you're not supposed to be doing unauthorized searches. And it's real dumb to do when the information is logged into a database. Like, granted, if criminals were smart, we wouldn't catch them. On November 22nd, 2022, the Post Commission ordered its own preliminary investigation of the allegations contained within the Internal Affairs report. It's just still so gross because they're like, it was when she was an adult. I'm not admitting to anything about when she was a child. And if he was still sending these text messages while she was an adult, and her brother was also having a sexual relationship with her. One, stop sharing the same chicks, twin brothers. That's gross. Two, it shows how long it had been going on. Because it wasn't just while she was a child and then he stopped his behavior. Like, no, it was from when she was at least 15, maybe younger, until she was like 23. I believe she was 23 when she died. So 7-8 years, this behavior is going on. But they're like, oh, it was when she was an adult. No, sir. That's not an accurate statement. You're a liar and a disgusting pig. After Birchmore was found dead in her Canton apartment in February of 2021, William Farwell told police investigators he had a relationship with Birchmore for about 2 years while she was an adult. Well, we know that's a lie. And that he had had sex with her 2 to 3 times, while your brother is also having sex with her. Yet you missed out a huge part of the past. He told investigators the last time they were together was December of 2020. But investigators found text messages indicating the pair met for sex in the parking lot of Birchmore's apartment building on January 10th, 2021. And I really don't want to hear anybody talk about how, well, you talk about these police officers, having sex with her, and like she's having sex with 2 guys. They have groomed her since she was a child. So she has grown an attachment to these men. And they play on her emotions and her vulnerability and her innocence as a child to get their jollies at her expense. And so think about if you were a child and you had multiple law enforcement officers taking advantage of you as a child, which is illegal, how much that would impact your emotional growth as a person, and how that would affect your brain as you're growing up. No matter what she was doing, she was not breaking the law. They were. And she's the one who ended up dead. I will have no besmirching of Birchmore. And I hope nobody thinks like that. But I'm sure there's some idiots out there that want to say that. Farwell, as in William Farwell, the twin brother, agrees that if this matter were to proceed to an adjudicatory hearing, the allegations described above, if proven by clear and convincing evidence, would permit the commission to impose significant discipline up to and including his decertification as a law enforcement officer in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The order reads, Farwell does not admit the truth of the allegations made against him. Right. He's just looking at it kind of like an Alford plea, if you've ever heard about it. Like, I'm not admitting that I did the things. I'm not denying that what you said is true. I am saying that with the evidence and information that you have, it is enough to have me look guilty or convict me. So I'm just going to sign this and I'm going to walk away. It's gross because he knows exactly the truth. But he needs to try to protect his image. And the poor mother who raised these boys, I don't know that she raised them to act like this and be like this. And God, can you imagine both of your two of your kids, the twins? They both have so much evil in them. It's heartbreaking. Birchmore's aunt, Darlene Smith, filed a wrong death lawsuit last year naming Matthew Farwell, William Farwell, among other defendants. Robert Devine, and then there was another guy, as responsible for her death due to a near-decade-long scheme of grooming and repeated assault by members of Stoughton Police Department. And it wasn't just like their outside secret life that they were living. Like, no, they were doing this while on duty, while a police officer, not in their off time. It was while they had the badge on that they did this nasty stuff. So that is that article about him being decertified. And we also have already gone over this wrongful death lawsuit. That is in a previous video. It is on our Sandra Birchmore playlist if you want to look at that. Let's move to the next article. Few details revealed at first hearing in Matthew Farwell's case since August arrest. So this was published and updated in February 10th, 2025. A photo of the disgraced murderer, alleged. and sexual predator, arpist, whatever you want to call him. This photo provided by Stoughton, Mass. Police Department shows Matthew Farwell, a former police officer who pled not guilty. I'm sorry. I was living in my reality. He pleads not guilty. Okay. August 28, 2024. Of killing a woman he is accused of sexually exploiting when she was underage and trying to stage the death as a suicide after she told him she was pregnant. Stoughton Police Department via Associated Press. This article is written by the same person that wrote the one that we just read. It is from Mass Live. I had to pay for these stinking articles because they just keep all their stuff under a paywall. Like, can't read anything for free. We don't want people to know what's really going on. A judge encouraged federal prosecutors and attorneys for Matthew Farwell, the former Stoughton police officer charged with killing Sandra Birchmore, to begin considering a date to bring the case to trial during a brief hearing Monday morning. The status conference Monday morning marked the first hearing in the Farwell case since his arrest and indictment on a charge of killing a victim or witness last August. Prosecutors say Farwell groomed and sexually abused Birchmore beginning when she was a teenager before killing her and staging her apartment to look like a suicide in February of 2021. Birchmore had told Farwell she was pregnant with his baby. Assistant U.S. Attorney Brian Alexander Fogarty told Magistrate Judge M. Page Kelly that prosecutors and Farwell's defense were working collaboratively to produce all relevant discovery materials in the case. Both sides agreed that they did not need the court intervention on discovery at this point. Well, that's nice that they're working together, because I am sure that the U.S. Attorney is not messing around. Jane Peachy, a federal public defender representing Farwell, said Farwell's defense submitted a second round of requests for discovery to prosecutors on Friday. Okay, so discovery seems to be going pretty well. They're not having the judge tell them to compel things and things. It seems to be a smooth process, which is great. That's how it should be. We should not be hiding things. Fogarty added that prosecutors would work with Farwell's defense to craft a filtration protocol for at least 2 pieces of electronic evidence and an iCloud account to protect privileged information. After a brief sidebar conversation out of earshot of those in the courtroom, Kelly continued the case until April 15th. So therefore, we are still waiting, and it's going to come on tax day. She also encouraged both sides to begin thinking about a realistic trial date. Kelly told prosecutors and Farwell's defense to say whether they are ready to consider setting a date in the next status report they submit. If they can't, they are to suggest a date when they would be ready to set a trial date. The Monday morning hearing was held at the Moakley Courthouse in Boston Seaport. Outside the courthouse, a small group had gathered in support of Birchmore, including her cousin Barbara Wright. So she has people. And this is happening in federal court, so this will not be live streamed. Speaking to reporters following the hearing, Wright described the quest for justice for Birchmore as a marathon, not a sprint. I define justice as seeing Matthew go behind bars for the rest of his life, she said. Yeah. Personally, he should get the death penalty, because that's my view on child predators, and if you don't like that, I'm sorry. Farwell could face the death penalty if convicted on the single charge he faces, but federal prosecutors have not said if they will pursue the death sentence in the case. I feel like they should, but I also feel like they won't here, even though they should, because that's just the way things have gone. It's just gone in favor of giving everybody a break. But I hope that the feds make a statement, because Massachusetts isn't doing anything as far as like Stoughton and Canton and none of them. They're not doing a dang thing. They're just like, well, we decertified them and they don't work here anymore. I'm not giving you a pat on the back for that as a police department. Morrissey can kiss my ass for that. Like, he needs to go. He is not serving you. He's serving himself. All right. So this last one is by the Boston Globe. I need to remember to cancel that membership, because dang, Boston Globe is expensive. State medical examiner still considers Sandra Birchmore's death an unaliving despite prosecution of ex-Stoughton officer. Yeah, you have Massachusetts saying it's an unaliving, and then you have the feds in the U.S. that's like, y'all are off your rocker, and since y'all aren't doing anything, we will. Which I think, I mean, he could have been charged both by Matthew Morrissey in his office in Massachusetts, and then the feds could have still charged him. I also think there's a possibility that if Michael Morrissey's office did what they were supposed to do, that he actually wouldn't be charged federally. I think if he gets convicted, I think he is going to take and does not get the death penalty. Even if he does get the death penalty, I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up taking a coward's way out while he was in jail. But this was came out March 31st of 2025, and it's where we got our thumbnail picture, and we've got somebody placing flowers last October outside the Stoughton Police Department before a ceremony organized by members of the Justice for Sandra Birchmore Facebook page. They are a very active community. You should definitely follow them on Facebook and Twitter to keep up with this case. Sadly, there are not as many updates in this case. And things are not going to be an open court and live stream like we see with Karen Reed. But she still deserves all the eyes and attention on her case. The federal government alleges a former Stoughton police detective murdered Sandra Birchmore. But 7 months after his indictment, her death certificate still says that she unalived herself. That's because the Massachusetts Medical Examiner stands by its findings that Birchmore died by unaliving and has declined to change the manner of death on her death certificate. I am not a fan of this medical examiner. There is a medical examiner that is in the Dr. Turk trial that's going on right now, and that judge seems pretty good. That medical examiner is very methodical in explaining things. She's great. Then you have Scorty Bello, who is in the Karen Reed trial. She was not going to be swayed by proctor and things like that. And so I think she's better. Whereas this one, I don't know whose thumb she's under, if she's been threatened. I don't know what. I don't know if she doesn't want to change it back because it makes her feel stupid. I don't know what her problem is. But I do not think in good conscience you can sit here and say this. And she's standing by it. She's digging her heels deeper into her findings. The official cause of death should become a legal compilation in the prosecution of former Detective Matthew G. Farwell, 39, according to analysts, with the possibility the medical examiner becomes a key witness in Farwell's defense and encounters pointed questioning from federal prosecutors. So that is the one thing that Matthew Farwell has going for him in his defense, is that the medical examiner working in Norfolk County does not believe it was a homicide. It is also coming from the people that haven't charged him. It's because they're protecting their asses. Whereas the feds are like, no, absolutely not. Straight to jail. This case might really come down to a battle of the experts. Daniel S. Medweb, professor of law and criminal justice at Northern University School of Law. And it might. But I don't think, with all the evidence that you have, and a medical examiner not paid for and under the boys in blue and the DA makes a really interesting point about the hyoid bone. Let's see what else is said. So it says the state medical examiner has not changed the death certificate even after meeting with the FBI's expert and federal prosecutors about the case a little more than 1 week before Farwell was arrested, according to the visitor logs from the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. Farwell has pled not guilty to the charge of killing a witness. There will be a knockdown, drag-out fight at the time of trial, and a jury will have to decide, says Nancy Gertner, a former federal judge who teaches at Harvard Law School. She said forensic pathology findings are subjective determinations. There is no scientific certainty here. This is a characterization, Gertner said. I agree. I think, and the thing is when the medical examiner makes its findings, it's not fully doing it just based off the autopsy. They are also taking in all the other evidence as well and helping them to determine things. And it is just an opinion, based on what they think. But we know that certain people are under certain people's thumbs. And the thing that really got me into this case and is reading the prosecutor's medical examiner, the one that was hired by Sandra Birchmore's family for their civil case, and his explaining of the hyoid bone. And even in watching the Dr. Turk trial, it is mentioned because of strangulation in that case. They talk about the hyoid bone in that case. So that was a huge piece for me. And then her buying things if she was going to be taking her life, she wouldn't be excited to pick up a car seat the same day that she did that. It doesn't make any sense at all. Prosecutors allege Farwell killed Birchmore to prevent her from revealing he committed aggravated statutory ARP against her when she was 15 and in a police youth group in Stoughton, and that he continued to meet her for sex while on duty after she reached the age of consent. He then allegedly staged the scene to make her death look like an unaliving. Yep, fully agree. Ugh. You just feel bad for his kids. I hate that his wife is standing beside him. And his wife is going to tell their kids that, oh, your dad's just a good man and like he's wrongfully convicted. Like he's a good papa. Like it just stinks. And then his kids are going to grow up and eventually realize the truth. Like he did so much in the last 10 years that got him to where he is today. But he has screwed up future generations because of his selfish acts. So far, 3 doctors have weighed in on cause and manner of death of Birchmore, who was pregnant and had been telling friends and family that Farwell was the father of her unborn child in the weeks before she was found dead in her apartment in Canton on February 4th, 2021. The experts are Dr. Maria Del Mar Capo Martinez, the state pathologist who conducted the autopsy on Birchmore and ruled it death that she died by unaliving, who I don't agree with. And I haven't seen her on other cases, but she is not on any of the cases that I see right now going on in Norfolk County. Dr. Michael Baden, a veteran forensic pathologist known for handling high-profile cases, who reviewed Birchmore's autopsy report at the request of her estate, and Dr. William Smock, who was hired by the FBI to examine the case and has a background in forensic medicine. So you have 2 to 1 that say it was a homicide, which read on. Baden and Smock say Birchmore is a homicide victim who died by strangulation. So, like, they didn't even, the feds didn't even they did not take the medical examiners, because there was 2 conflicting stories, right? You have the state's medical examiner saying unaliving, and then you have Birchmore's family who has somebody that says homicide. So the feds didn't come in and take a side either way on the ones they knew about. They outsourced a medical examiner who came to the same opinion as the one that Birchmore's family had hired. So now it's even stronger because you have 2 people who say that, and then you have this one who's under the state who doesn't want to charge him saying that it's the opposite. Capo Martinez was the only doctor to examine Birchmore's body. She was cremated after her autopsy. Baden and Smock reviewed autopsy records and other materials. And of course, that's what, in the defense, they're going to say, well, Baden and Smock didn't examine her body. They didn't actually touch the body. They didn't see it. And Capo Martinez, the state medical examiner, did. And that's how they're going to try to discredit the ones that found it as a homicide, is you're just going by reports and pictures, whereas she actually dealt with the body itself. The evidence singled out by Smock that suggested Birchmore was in a struggle before her death includes a broken necklace with a flamingo pendant she regularly wore, A relative found the broken necklace on the bedroom floor several weeks after Birchmore died and provided it to the investigators. It was also documented in the crime scene photos, yet state troopers and Norfolk District Attorney Michael Morrissey's office did not note the necklace in their reports, and the medical examiner has declined to say whether it considered it as evidence. Right, because they're not just going by the autopsy analysis when making these determinations. So when they talk about, oh, you didn't examine the body, did you? No, but I looked at your reports and all your findings because you clearly wrote them out. And then I also looked at the evidence that you got to look at. So she got to look at the evidence the same way as these other forensic pathologists, medical examiners did. So they still all had the same information, whether the body was directly in front of them and they were able to touch it or not. Capo Martinez has not spoken publicly about her findings, and the state medical examiner's office has not provided details about her reasoning. She didn't respond to an email seeking comment. Autopsy reports are not public record in Massachusetts, which I wish they were, because not the photos so much, but at least the report. It says, but a spokesperson for her office said in a statement the conclusion that Birchmore unalived herself was based on the evidence available at the time of determination. Yes, I can agree with maybe that. Maybe. Available at the time of determination. But the thing is you can go and change that when new information comes out. So that's not a valid excuse anymore. And then it's got a picture of Dr. Michael Baden and his wife, attorney Linda Kenny Baden, walked to the funeral home for Aaron Hernandez in Bristol, Connecticut in 2017. Baden reviewed the autopsy of Birchmore at the request of a lawyer for the estate and concluded she died by homicide. So he had some stuff in the Aaron Hernandez case. Our skilled medical examiners are fully prepared to contribute their expertise to the legal process, ensuring a detailed and transparent analysis of all relevant facts, said Elaine Driscoll, the spokesperson. As with every case, the OCME will review any additional evidence submitted by investigating authorities to verify its consistency with the cause and manner of death findings. Christina Miller, associate clinical professor at Suffolk University Law School, said expert opinions depend on the quality of the available information. The medical examiner's opinion is only as good as their observations. Yeah, and I'm thinking she went blind to a lot of things. And maybe she wasn't given every bit of information because some was probably hidden from her, like they do up in Norfolk. So what is the basis of the knowledge? Miller said, anytime you have an expert, you're looking at what they did to take into consideration when they rendered their opinion. And I think this is also where the state medical examiner, Capo Martinez, is going to be shred on the witness stand. Because I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of things that she didn't consider when rendering the opinion she did. But we'll see. Spokesperson for the U.S. Attorney's Office in Massachusetts and Boston's FBI branch office declined to comment. So they're not commenting either, which they don't usually comment about cases that are ongoing for the most part anyways. Shira Diner, who teaches at Boston University School of Law, said she couldn't think of another case in which two sets of investigators examining the same matter reached such different conclusions. Um, I I can somewhat agree with that. Um, because most of the time you don't have them fighting over where it was an unaliving or a homicide. A lot of times you have them fighting over the manner, like she didn't die by strangulation, she died by um, asphyxiating on fluid in her lungs, or like she was coughing. And so, I mean, I guess they're still kind of considering it. Um, it's still homicide versus unaliving, or homicide versus natural causes. But there are just stark differences. Most of the time, it's just interpreting the information differently, where they're like, yeah, it was still suffocation. Like they're agreeing that it was suffocation, but it was natural versus somebody strangling you and stuff. So I don't know. And you know what? I may not agree with that, because I mean that's usually what you have in cases. But usually it's the other way around, where the state has it right and the defense doesn't. So that may be why it's different. But Ellen Greenberg is another example of where the state doesn't have it right, I don't think. Which I think they did recently change that. So, I mean, it is really interesting, and it's just like how can you be so divided? Like, shouldn't it just be this is how it happened, period? But not everybody's created equally. Or if they are created equally, some just choose to ignore it, or they're helping somebody out. Try not to make somebody look bad. Maybe she's been threatened that her job is going to be taken away and she can't afford that. Who knows? I'm not saying that happened, but like we just don't know. It says prosecutors don't normally challenge a government medical examiner's opinion in a murder case. Maybe that's where it's different, because it's not like a defense, and the state. It's a state and the feds. The state and the feds are fighting about it. So I think that's where it's so different, because usually the feds and the states are usually on the same side. But in this case, they're not. The feds seem to go against a lot of things that happen in Norfolk County, though. They don't seem to agree with anything going on there. Let's see. Medical examiner's opinion in the murder case, said Dunner, who is also president of the Massachusetts Association for Criminal Defense Lawyers. As a defense lawyer, I would definitely make some points about the fact that this autopsy report is in contradiction with the theory that the government is putting forward at trial, Diner said. Ultimately, it's going to be up to a jury to decide what they believe. And I believe that they are going to think Matthew Farwell is a murderer. Jeffrey M. Cohen, an associate professor at Boston College School of Law and a former federal prosecutor, said that there's nothing in the law that prevents the jury from rejecting the medical examiner's conclusion. The government must be confident in their ability to persuade the jury that the medical examiner got it wrong, he said. Farwell's public defenders declined to comment, saying rules of conduct expressly forbid them from doing so, but asked that not be seen as a failure or a refusal to dispute assertions in the story. It should not be taken that way. There are just things that you can and cannot comment about, which we see Morrissey not following those things. He just comments on whatever the heck he wants to comment, even though he's not supposed to. So, Right now, I don't see anything underhanded about Farwell's attorney. I think she is just defending Farwell's right to have a defense, and that everything is followed and he doesn't get railroaded by the system, because we don't want him to be railroaded by the system. We want it to be clean. We want it to be by law. We don't want any appellate issues. And believe it or not, a defense attorney can do things and not be slimy. They can. Even though we still may not like them because of who they're representing, they can be good. We ask your readers to reserve judgment until they have all the facts. They wrote, Farwell's next status conference is set for May 6th. So it may have gotten pushed from April 15th to May 6th. So we may not be seeing it on tax day. That, or they realized it was tax day and we're like, no, we're not doing that. Baden's, sorry, I don't know the correct pronunciation of the way he says it. Review of Birchmore's autopsy report said several factors, including that her right hyoid bone was fractured, suggest that she was strangled. Some research suggests such fractures are less likely in an unaliving by hanging and more likely to occur during strangulations, but are not conclusive. Smock also noted that Birchmore had a broken hyoid bone and found other reasons to question the unaliving determination. According to the FBI affidavit, for instance, Smock said Birchmore had a pattern imprint on her right upper chest, though the belt buckle that would have left the mark was found just below her right ear. Right. So what was pressuring down on her chest? Because you can put pressure on the chest, which can affect lungs and breathing and stuff like that. Like somebody sits on you, it makes it harder to breathe. And then if you're sitting on them or you got your knees in them or something on them and you're cutting their oxygen supply with your hands around your neck or a strap around their neck, you're cutting it off even more, which would not have happened if she did something to herself. It would have just, the actions would have just been going on where the thing was around her in the way that a person who unalived them, they wouldn't have all this other extra stuff. It would just be focused on that, the damage there. For outside damage. The internal damage would be other places, but outside damage should only be where the actual stuff was at. Bridget Baldwin, a law professor for Western New England University School of Law, said prosecutors have identified other circumstantial evidence that points to murder, such as Farwell's request for a key to her apartment about a week before she died. In an affidavit, the FBI also said Birchmore's phone indicates her last movements occurred while Farwell was in the apartment the night she died. Yeah. Well, see, they believe the data of her phone, but in the Karen Reed case, we have them not believing the data of the phone. But, you know. All right. Lastly, in this article, it states Baldwin suggested if she were handling this prosecution, she would tell the jury the medical examiner erred and emphasized the error was not due to dishonesty or incompetence. Then what is it? Because you're either dumb or you're being dishonest. But let's see what she says. I think that they are really going to have to convince the jury that they made a mistake, Baldwin said. They're wrong. All of this other stuff points to the fact that he killed her. And he killed her because he was sexually assaulting her as a minor and he didn't want her to tell. And that's evidenced by all the information that we have. The other thing is that we don't have any evidence to suggest that she wanted to unalive herself, Baldwin said. Farwell and Birchmore met through an Explorers program, a junior police academy for youth run by the Stoughton Police Department. Birchmore was a youth participant in the program, while Farwell was a guest instructor. And like I said, this article is in the Boston Globe. So we have the state medical examiner, Capo Martinez, is doubling down, saying I'm sticking to my findings. And I just don't think that you can do that, honestly. There's something that stinks with her sticking by her decision. But we will see how this plays out. If any more updates come out, I will be updating. The updates are slow in this case. But if you want to know when the next video is out about this case and other cases, subscribe, hit that like button, share this video out, turn those notification bells on, and let me know what you think in the comments. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.